In this video, I'm going to introduce you to a video of Alan Watts. Now, lots of you will already be aware of Alan Watts. If by any stroke of I don't know what, you're not, where have you been? Obviously not on the spiritual path. Now, this video, I'm going to post it in the description, is a very poignant one to the message that I've been conveying for all these years. And the title of it is Why Spiritually Awake People Are Quietly Disappearing from Society. And this subject here is something that I approached my therapist with, and my therapist had absolutely no idea what I was speaking about when I said, look, there's many reasons why I am here to speak with you. I didn't tell her that, well, one of them is because it's free and because I'm seeking out intelligent, interesting conversation, which I never ended up having in 14 sessions, which constituted about 20 hours. And I spoke to a psychiatrist only last week because 2 years had passed plus, and what they do is if you are on their books, then they will call you in for a meeting to see how you are, if you need anything, because they have a duty of care. And I was under the impression that I was called in because of the complaint I have lodged with the National Health Service in relation to the service that I received from this particular avenue of therapy. Because after my last session was terminated by my therapist because she considered that there was no point in us continuing, when I said, well, I think there's a point in us continuing, just because I've told you that I don't think your only method is any good. On the contrary, I think it's brought up things which now I have to contemplate when I never had to contemplate them before. But anyway, this is another subject, so it's a bit convoluted here as usual. I never heard from my therapist in 1 whole month. I never got a letter saying, I've had a word with one of our colleagues and they are going to try to fit you in, or she never sent a report concluding what we'd spoken about in our sessions. Nothing, absolutely nothing. And I thought that was despicable. And so I put a complaint in, and that's being dealt with. Now, when I went to see the psychiatrist, I thought that he'd called me in because of that, but it wasn't. And I explained to him that I was let go from my therapy session. I'm like, what sort of therapists do you have when they turn their clients away? Because they can't deal with what they are hearing. Wow. So I said to the new psychiatrist, who is African, and he's a proper African, and I'm speculating he's from one of the British colonies, because he's spoken English for a long time. So one of those countries, but he's very African, and I told him I was shot in Africa, and that's what brought about my spiritual awakening. So he was quite intrigued about that, and so he says, well, look, He needs to adjourn the meeting and investigate. He needs to speak with the therapist, he needs to read my notes, and he needs to follow up the complaint procedure, and he'll get back to me in 4 or 6 weeks. So I said, okay, fine. But the point of what I'm saying here is that I sought out therapy to try to speak with someone that may know something about what I've been going through, the spiritual awakening. Initially I asked for a Jungian psychologist, to which they said they didn't have any. And I said, well, okay, just give me whoever you've got. And so I got someone that specialised in eye movement desensitization therapy. And it's, as far as I'm concerned, of no use. So that's an ongoing thing, and I'm waiting for the report to be compiled, and I will be applying for all her notes, and I will be following the formal complaint through, and I will insist on being placed somewhere else. And what they're trying to do now is they're saying, well, we don't have anybody that's suitable for you, but we can point you in a direction where you may find someone. And so they're trying to pass the buck. And I'm not going to allow them to pass the buck, because they are going to be pointing me to the private sector. And I'm like, I'm on benefit. I can't afford 50 or 100 pounds an hour. So you'd better dig deeper. There must be someone who works within the National Health, who works within the National Health, who has been trained in Jungian psychology. And so I want you to find them, please. Put out an APB on anyone who's had Jungian psychology training. And I tell you now, people, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get what I want, because I always do. Now, this video of Alan Watts is speaking about why spiritually awake people are quietly disappearing from society, because they can't talk to anyone. It's a waste of time. They can no longer play the charades anymore, and so they retreat into their own worlds. And this is where I have been now for the past 17 years. And this is what I want documenting on my health records to protect me from any government who tries to press gang me again back into slavery. So Alan Watts says here, he says it is a physical impossibility to go back out into the matrix once you've become spiritually awoken. It isn't something that is doable. And so here I am. And it's high time that governments around the world should start to recognise this as a condition, and it should be in the diagnostics and symptoms manual as a real condition, because it prohibits us from doing many of the things that we could do before. And it's not just that we don't want to do them, we don't have the mental capability, we don't have the attitude, we just have lost the ability to be able to do that, because that pertains to a sleeping person. And when we are awakened, well, we do things that awakened beings do, and we can no longer do those which the sleeping ones do, because we're no longer asleep, you see. And so those of you some of you have been watching me for some time. Lots of you are new. And I have been conveying to you my spiritual awakening, of which I wrote a book. And I'm going to start doing readings from the book again, because the subject matter is really important. It is about the spiritual awakening, and if any of you are on that journey, then you would all benefit a great deal from reading that book. A lot. And for those of you that listened to my conversation with Tommy in recent times, then he refers to it almost on a daily basis. Keeps going over and over and over. And he says that lots of the things he doesn't comprehend, and he wants to, so he keeps going over it and again. And this is why I say that that book should one day be renowned as the spiritual person's Bible. It is not a religious scripture. It's a conglomerate. It's a collection of episodes that one experiences whilst on the spiritual journey. And the most important thing about this video now is what I'm saying is that we are all unique. But when we are spiritually awoken, we enter into a very structured format which is very similar for everyone that has this spiritual awakening. The criteria are X, Y, and Z, and on and on and on and on and on and on. There's stepping stones, and they may not necessarily be all in the same order, but there's certain criteria that one will meet upon the journey. That's just how it is. And so that's a real curious thing, because it's like, wow, this spiritual journey is a real thing. Because everyone, loosely, the vast majority, certainly, I've listened to thousands of people speak about what they went through when they had their awakening, and I'm like, tick, 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 oh, you've got that one to come, oh, you've done that one, tick, tick. That's how it is. It is actually a thing. And this is why I'm pushing with this therapy thing that I'm doing, because I want the British government to be aware of this. And I'm going to take it to the top. I'm going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And when they get tired of me pushing, I will say to them, well, it just shows how inadequate this system actually is for dealing with people who are not your regular automaton. And I told my therapist that the world churns out automaton, and she found that very offensive. And when I said to her, I need you to listen very carefully to what I am saying, and I need you to compile something which is very thorough as to my journey that I've been on for these past 17 years, because it's dissociated me from humanity and left me feeling like an alien. And in that context, I can no longer do the things that society requests of me, that governments request of me, to be a slave and pay my tithes and all the rest of it. And she was a typical liberalist, and she was like, so you want me to write a letter for the government telling them that you shouldn't work? Well, do you think that's fair? And I'm like, you, a therapist, are asking me if I think the condition that I've got is fair, and the way I now live, which isn't conducive to the vast majority of the way in which other people live in this country, let's just say, the world, the first world in any case. And I'm conveying to you what's happened to me, what's reconfigured my mind, and now you're asking me if that's fair. Wow, I'm going to take this to the top. As you know, I've got every single one of my sessions recorded, and the board, who I eventually get all my videos before, will see that I laboured and laboured and laboured about my condition, and I was told that I'm storytelling and I'm wasting their time, our time together with my stories. And she would go, yes, Aaron, we always seem to get here, don't we? I mean, and she looks at the clock and she says, now it's been an hour, and you know, you've spent that time storytelling. And I'm like, wow, aren't you supposed to be listening to our stories? We've all got stories as to why we are like we are. She didn't want to listen to my stories. All she wanted to do was wave her silly magic wand, which was the pen like this, and she'd do that and I'd follow it like that for about 20 times, and then she'd ask me to say the first thing that came into my mind. And I did this, I appeased her with it on lots of occasions. And I said, look, I've done this. If I've done it 10 times, I've done it 1,000 times. And it always ends the same. It ends in me getting emotional. It doesn't matter how many more times I do it, it never gets any less sensitive. There's something in there at the core that has been very, very damaged. And there's no recovery from that child. But she thinks this magic pen, ooh, will make everything wonderful again. Well, it didn't. And it doesn't. So anyway, people, I've got lots to say. I can go down a billion different avenues in any particular video, because I'm a very complex individual. But what I will say is the complexity of each individual let me say, it doesn't matter how complex the individual is. When an individual wakes up, they follow this same sequence of events, which is the spiritual awakening path. It's a real path. It's a real thing. And it's kind of like, it's a thing on its own. It's a thing in the ether. It's a thing like a morphic resonance field. It's something which is there. It's been there forever. And when we wake up, we see like Jacob's ladder. Jacob in the Bible had a dream about a ladder going up to heaven with angels on it and all different stuff like that. When we wake up spiritually, we see this pathway. And we start out upon it, and we visit all these places which I've written about in my book. I find that deeply interesting. Deeply. There's much more to be said about that. But anyway, I'll post this video, because if any of you are on the spiritual path, this video would be music to your ears. and you would say, absolutely, 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 that's my life now, and it's been my life for the last so many years. If you don't say that to this video, you are not spiritually awoken. You are not on the spiritual path. So you could say this is the litmus test. You have to tick every single one of these boxes, and you will if you are spiritually awoken. If you're not, you may think like, that's no, no, no. Absolutely, you know, yes, 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 yes. Now then, let's just listen to the first 1 minute, let's just say. First 1 minute.
You see, there is something very curious happening right now, and most people haven't noticed it yet. The ones who have awakened, the ones who have begun to see through the game, are simply vanishing. Not with drama, not with announcements, not with manifestos. They are just quietly stepping back, fading into the edges, choosing silence over the noise. And if you have felt this pull yourself, if you have been wondering why you can no longer stand the conversations, the parties, the performances, then what I am about to tell you may bring you great relief. Because this withdrawal is not a sickness. It is not antisocial behavior. It is actually the most natural thing in the world when someone wakes up. Let me explain what I mean by waking up. I am not talking about reading a few books on philosophy or having a nice idea about oneness. I am talking about that moment when the veil drops and you see that almost everything people are doing is a kind of sleepwalking. They are playing roles, repeating lines, moving through routines, all while completely unaware that they are asleep. Now, when you're asleep yourself, this is no problem. You fit right in. You can have conversations about nothing and feel perfectly fine. You can worry about what other people think and believe that matters. You can chase after things that have no real substance and call it success. But the moment you wake up, the moment you really see what is happening, everything changes.
Now then, I'm going to listen to that again because it's so good. It's so good. And so I suggest you listen to it several times also. Okay, enough.